Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Grizzly Bear Sim's YouTube channel, and welcome back to another episode here of Euro Truck Simulator 2. My name is Jerry, and I'm glad that you stopped by the channel. If you're new to the channel, I hope that you will go ahead and click the subscribe button there on the screen, and also click the little bell to be reminded when I produce and release new content. I do have a new schedule that I've posted, and I will talk about that here momentarily. So we are basically where we left off in the previous episode about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. We are in Taranto, Italy. We're basically going to travel, let me get rid of that. We're basically going to travel down into the toe of the boot of Italy. This is going to be quite a little bit of a distance, 502 kilometers. It will involve one ferry ride as well as we get across this section here. So actually we're going to go into the toe and then over to Catania here. So it'll be quite fun, I think. Hopefully you will enjoy it, and I'm hoping that I will enjoy it. It will obviously be a brand new discovered city that we have yet to discover. So let's go ahead and get our Volvo Globetrotter fired up here. We will get in the cab, release the parking brake, and I need to go ahead and pull up the F3 menu here and go ahead and get this switched over to that view right there. All right, and we will release our parking brake and off we go. Hope everyone is having a wonderful day today as we are pulling out here. It is just after 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:26 to be exact, and we need to turn on our windshield wipers there so that we can see as we continue to move down. I've not adjusted our rain probability or anything like that. Got it set at whatever it happens to be set at, but it just so happens we've got a little bit of rain this morning. So all good. That'll just add to the diversity of our trip and everything and make things just a little bit different as we motor along down in the, I guess, the soul of the country of Italy, down in the lower portion of the boot. All right, let me make sure nothing is coming. Hopefully Track IR is going to behave itself. It's been working fantastic. It's been working fantastic since I sort of made the corrections to the tracker module thing that clips onto the bill of my cap. So fingers crossed it will maintain itself and it will hold up for our trip of, like I said, a little over 500 miles is what we've got to accomplish here. Now, or should I say 500 kilometers actually is our correct measurement. So that's what we will call that. So what I'm going to most likely do is I think 500 and something kilometers is going to be a little bit longer of a trip than maybe what we want to have a video made, and I need to slow my speed down before I get a speeding ticket. Fingers crossed we can make this trip without any speeding tickets whatsoever. That is always the goal, and of course we always attempt to try to make our trips with zero damage so that we get excellent ratings on our deliveries, and that way the companies that we are hauling for will be happy with us, and you never know what these guys are going to do when they come around these circles here. So let's just go around like this, and we'll take this other exit right up here, I believe. There we go. Every time I go around a circle, I am reminded, a traffic circle, I'm reminded of the European Vacation movie with Chevy Chase. Now, my fellow Americans probably will recognize the fact that, you know, traffic circles are not that big of a thing here in the U.S. Most people just simply don't understand them. We do have a few traffic circles here in the Denver area, in the Colorado area. There's a couple here in Denver. As a matter of fact, there's one that I go around each and every day on my way to work. We have a small traffic circle that really is just I think it was just a shortcut and easy for them to put in just to direct traffic around a center median and a couple of access points to a hotel, but it is nonetheless, it is a traffic circle. And most people just don't seem to be able to grasp the concept of what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it and everything when they come up on those, like who has the right of way, who yields, all that kind of stuff. I guess to a certain extent, I have. Let me bump my speed up here. I guess to a certain extent, I have. There we go. There's our first. There's our first speeding violation because we got nailed as the speed limit came down to 50 there. I think we can turn off our windshield wipers as well. I think the rain has stopped. That is obviously nice here. So anyway, yeah, traffic circles are just something that most Americans, most Yanks just don't get. And I guess since I have been a little bit exposed to the game, I suppose that, or the game of Euro Truck Simulator, I suppose I might be a little more versed in these things. And of course, going to Europe, going to the UK about every other year or so, I'm certainly aware of how these things operate and everything. And so even though I don't do a whole lot of driving when we do visit the UK or Europe, I tend to drive probably more in Europe than I do in the UK, just because when we're in Belgium, they do drive on the correct side of the road. That would be the right side of the road, the same as we do here in the US, and all those Brits and everything, they drive on the left side or the wrong side. But anyway, I find it a little easier for me to drive in Europe and Belgium than I do in the UK. But well, enough about all that. But anyway, hope you all are having a wonderful, wonderful day. The speeds do here in Euro Truck Simulator, they do, I suppose, bore me just a little bit, if I'm honest. And of course, I enjoy Euro Truck Simulator 2. I enjoy the game very much. I never had the first one, so my first introduction to a trucking simulator was ETS2, and then of course ATS came out. But I guess if there's one thing that does slightly bore me about the differences between ETS2 and ATS is the speed limits. The speed limits, obviously, within Europe and Great Britain are much, much slower than what, or semi-speed limits are much, much slower than what we experience here in the U.S. I mean, our truck drivers can drive, in excess of 65, 70 miles an hour, and so therefore you can get to where you're needing to go much, much quicker than what we experience here within ETS2. I'm really not sure. I'll be honest and just go ahead and say it. I'm kind of a dumb American when it comes to the metric system and stuff like that. I really don't know what kilometers per hour equates to miles per hour. I do know that it's much slower. I believe it's certainly not equivalent to 55, or of course I'm driving 5 kilometers a mile. I am driving 5 kilometers per hour more than the posted speed limit, and I do tend to do that. And I think I probably mentioned that in one of the first truck sim videos that I ever did. I sort of gave the warning and said, I'm going to pretty much do this pretty much how I drive in real life. I pretty much always drive about 5 miles over the posted speed limit, unless I'm in a school zone. And if I'm in a school zone, I will adhere to the posted speed limits, if not even go a little bit slower, just simply because of the lives and everything that are at stake with that. I mean, that's a legitimate reason to slow things down. And obviously, most school zones, it's only maybe a mile or so in length that traffic is slowed down a little bit. But anyway, so 50 becomes 70, but I have a feeling that we're going to slow back down again. Plus, I need to make this turn right up here. So you might notice in my ATS videos, if you watch those, and I hope you do, I certainly invite you to watch all of my videos that I put out on the Grizzly Bear Sims YouTube channel. But if you do watch my ATS videos, and you've seen, I believe, 2 now, since I've sort of rebooted the trucking sim on the channel, you know that I am running a number of mods that do change some of the default things within the game. One of those being those barriers, those road barriers that basically block your access into driving down a road that hasn't been developed by SCS or ProMods or whatever. And so I have not installed that mod that removes those in ETS2 like I have in ATS. I do need to do that because I kind of would like to have the same experience between the two games, between the two simulators. That would be kind of cool to have that. I also will get around to eventually installing the mod that basically does away with the load and drop off floating icon in the air kind of thing, symbol. For lack of a better description, that's the best way I can come up with kind of what I'm talking about. Within ATS, it replaces that with just like a manhole cover, and like a steel manhole cover that you pull over, and it will, give you the ability to press enter on your keyboard to essentially pull up that dialogue. So I will eventually get those mods loaded, and then of course get my spreadsheet, my mod spreadsheet updated. So if you guys are interested in also enjoying those mods as well, then you'll be able to have that luxury to be able to do that. So about 357 kilometers to go, 5 hours and 45 minutes or so there of virtual game time. Of course, if you are new to ETS2 and ATS, then you may not know that everything is compressed. The scale of the maps and everything are not real time. So a lot of folks, I know that that's a point of discussion within, say, for example, the Steam discussion groups and whatnot, is a lot of times people will say, I want one for one. I want to, I want every mile to basically be represented and everything. In other words, they want to have the experience of it taking 8 hours to drive from point A to point B, if that's how long it takes to do it in the real world. And I think that, a lot of folks will often argue and say, well, but flight sim, both FSX, X-Plane, P3D, those flight simulators all are scaled 1-to-1. So it's basically real scale, real life scale. A mile in the real world equals a mile in the virtual world. But you are flying an aircraft that's capable of flying, well, if you're flying a tube liner or a jet aircraft, you're flying an aircraft that's capable of flying at several hundred miles an hour, or even a Cessna prop plane or something. You're flying whatever, 60, 70, 80 knots, whatever those typically travel at. And of course, you're typically flying shorter distances in, say, for example, a Cessna versus, a Boeing 747. But there are some, the game, all the simulators that I have, which I have all of them. I have FSX, which I don't use anymore because it's severely outdated, and I have moved over and standardized onto P3D. But I also have X-Plane. But P3D is pretty much my go-to flight sim. But they do have time compression where you can crank up the 2x, 4x, 8x, 16, and I think up to like 32, maybe even 64 times speed. So in other words, what a lot of folks will do is, let's say you're going to fly a long haul flight from Denver to London, which I will do in a couple of months in the real world, but I will also do that flight in the virtual world. I have a little bit of a superstitious nature, and I have pretty much every time I have flown in the real world, just about anywhere, I almost always do it virtually ahead of time. I do the trip virtually ahead of time, and I'm not going to say that I do that for luck, good or bad, but I do sort of enjoy doing that. But anyway, I digress. There is a time compression, so what a lot of folks will do, and even including myself, is you fly at or you're at 1x speed, where basically every minute represents a minute of real time, virtual time, etc. And then once you get airborne, once you get up to altitude and everything, especially flying a flight like, say, from Denver to London, is then you can crank up 4x, 8x speed or whatever, and speed across the Atlantic, and then slow things down as you come up for your top of descent and your descent and approach and all of that stuff. And all that's doable in the flight sim because, once you are airborne, once you are at altitude, say 36,000 feet, flight level 360, the airplane is flying fairly straight and level and steady and everything. So cranking up the time while it's on autopilot is really not a big deal. You're just more or less sitting back and watching the clouds go by at a little bit faster clip than normal. But in the virtual, say, automobile or truck world, like we're in right here, if your map scale was 1-to-1, in other words, where 1 mile of real life matches 1 mile of virtual world, yeah, I suppose, the game developers could put in a faster speed, but I'm not sure if you can actually drive and control your vehicle and everything in that fashion running at 4x or 8x or whatever. So I'm very pleased with where they have the scale, with how they have the scale set. And of course, if you are in the know, then you know that they when SES released ATS about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I guess now, it was not to the scale that it is currently. And so they did rescale that, and that was part of the delays that created the delay with New Mexico getting released. Was they wanted to do the rescale and everything prior to releasing that, and of course also that is what's also most likely slowed down the release of Oregon and pretty much anything else from that point forward, is they needed to get that rescale done. And well, if you're not new to the channel, you also know that I blog about different things as well. And I wrote a piece about that, and I basically congratulated SCS for making that decision and taking the time to do that map rescale now versus waiting to do it down the road, because the probability would have been that if ATS would have waited, if SCS would have waited, if SCS would have waited to do the rescale for ATS, and they would have continued to crank out state DLC, so we would have got New Mexico, Oregon, and whatever's going to come next. If they would have continued to do that, then the map scale would have pretty much been locked in, I think, to just basically what it was. We would have never got the enhanced scale. And so it's quite nice now. I don't, off the top of my head, I can't recall what the scale is, but it is nice. It certainly improved the feel of, say, for example, driving in California, driving up the interstate, say I-5, I think it is, north from, say, San Diego, Los Angeles, up to the Bay Area, or even Northern California. It made that a little bit more true to life, even though it's still, let's see, what am I doing? Even though it is still scaled down, it just made things a little bit more fluid, I thought, or I think. It seemed like when you left LA, you really got to like the next town. I don't even recall what the next town is, maybe like Bakersfield or something like that. You got there really, really quick, it felt like. And so now that the scale is a little bit, the map is a little bit larger, it does feel as if you're driving a little bit longer before you get into that next town. And maybe I'm just really, I've probably just really screwed that explanation and everything up in trying to describe it that way. But hopefully you get the gist of it, and you understand what I'm saying. So we are 170 miles out here, and I'm not real sure what the road works and everything has been doing to us, but I think I'm still on the correct path. I think I'm still on the correct road. I'm not sure where that road over there goes and why we can't drive on it, but in any event, we can't. Maybe that will be expanded territory for us soon. We can get out on that road and enjoy that. All right, Villa San Giovanni, I believe this is what the sign said. I'm pretty bad with names. This might be our port town, or at least I think we're getting pretty close to our place where we're going to embark on our ferry. The ferry ride is only about 8 kilometers, I believe, so we're not going to be on the ferry for very long. Certainly won't have the advantage to get much rest on the ferry. That is something that is kind of cool with ETS, is that if you are driving, for example, from Europe over to maybe Sweden, or maybe over to the UK, or especially if you're going from, say, the port of Rotterdam up to like Scotland or something like that, you do have the ability to rest while you're on the ferry. So you can kind of drive, maybe you can extend your drive and everything, and of course the ferry trip is going to take a specified amount of time, obviously, to do, but you can sort of factor that in whenever it comes time to getting your rest and everything. And of course, I like the fact that that these games, that ETS2 and ATS, have the whole sleep factor built into it. I often think that it would be kind of cool if Giants were to adopt that for Farm Sim. Now, I don't know if, well, I know that Cattle and Crops does have the ability for you to rest. The little bit of time that I've spent with that game, I have experienced that. I don't think it really forces you to, but you do have the ability to lay down in your bed. Now, of course, Farmer's Dynasty, they did incorporate that into the game itself. So that is sort of a feature that, you occasionally have to eat and you have to rest to keep your character, your player, and everything healthy. And I think that's cool, and I think that it would be nice if Giants would incorporate that into Farm Sim. Maybe Farm Sim 19 would be a cool feature for that, because that is something else that just adds to the realism and adds to the simulation of it all. And of course, that's why we play these games, right? Is for the immersion, the realism, the simulation, and that's why I typically only play simulation-based games. All right, so I'm going to set my parking brake. I'm going to go ahead and shut our truck off here, and I'm just going to look over at my time here, and we're in about 22 minutes into the game. So we're going to go ahead and select Messina as our arrival port, and we are going to embark after we pay 347 euros for this trip, and it takes 20 minutes. As I get a drink of iced tea there, so my apologies for that. And it looks like we've got a new achievement that we've earned, which is kind of cool. I do enjoy earning achievements in this game, as well as in ATS and Farm Sim and all those games. Speaking of achievements, and I'm not bragging, so don't take this as me bragging, but there is one achievement that I have never earned in Farm Sim. Can you guess which one that might be? And it's not because I cheat, because I did this with Farm Sim 15, and I also did it with 17, and most likely I will do it with 19 when it comes out. I always play career mode on when I very first get the game. I always play whatever the new map is. It was Goldcrest Valley with 17, it was Westbridge Hills with 15, but I was a noob to Farm Sim with Westbridge Hills. But I always play in career mode, but I have never earned the achievement for going bankrupt, or basically going negative or whatever, on the very first day. I've never earned that. That is one achievement that I do not have for 15, and I do not have it for 17. So I don't know, maybe I will endeavor to maybe try to earn that badge in 19, or maybe I should just try to keep my streak running and not basically go bankrupt on the first day. All right, I need to reset my track IR there. So I hope that you all are enjoying the new schedule. It's a schedule that I have been able to that I've basically been able to keep because I did sort of string you guys along and gals along for about 2 weeks with only releasing 3 episodes a week or 3 videos a week. And so during that time, I was still recording content and basically working to build my queue and everything back up. I enjoy working from a little bit of a queue. It is kind of detrimental in one sense because my videos are usually about a week to 10 days out in the future. So in other words, you guys are watching videos 10 days or so after I've recorded them. So I'm not gonna be able to give you a lot of breaking news and things like that. That's kind of what I will use Discord for, is I will always try to pay attention to what's going on in the virtual world with some of these games that we're all enjoying and playing, and I will post information out on Discord, but may not always be able to get all the nitty-gritty details and everything in the videos, just simply because I am working from that queue. But it does sort of allow me the flexibility of if I come home from the office and I'm a bit tired and I just really don't feel like recording. Maybe I want to play a game, but I just don't want to record it, or maybe I want to play a game that I'm not necessarily putting on the channel, like, for example, Car Mechanic Simulator. It will allow me the opportunity to do that. And so putting out 5 videos a week right now, I've got it's 2 schedules that basically rotate with each other. So a schedule A and a schedule B. So right now, using the example of the 2 farm sim maps that I'm playing for Midtown USA and Tazewell County, week A, I think it is, schedule A features Midtown on Monday, a mod review on Tuesday, ATS on Wednesday, Tazewell County on Thursday, and then Midtown USA on Friday. And then week 2, or week B, I forget how I referenced it, but week B would be Monday, Tazewell County, Tuesday will be a mod review, Wednesday will be ETS2, Thursday will be Midtown USA, and Friday will be Tazewell County. So that way I give you, while I'm juggling 2 different farm sim maps, I'm giving you essentially 1 episode of one of my series 1 week and 2 episodes that week, and then it flip-flops, it reverses. And but of course, as I've said, Midtown USA is going to be wrapping up very soon, and it may even be wrapping up very near the time frame. Let's see, no, we don't want that street. We want to continue to go very near the time frame that you're actually watching this video. As a matter of fact, I am hoping that this coming weekend, and I will tell you that we're coming up on Easter weekend, so I am recording this episode on Wednesday, the week of Easter, the week leading up to Easter, I should say. So I'm hoping that maybe on Saturday morning, while the wife is still sleeping, to get in there in Midtown USA and start harvesting those soybeans. I have been just chomping at the bit to basically get to that point of the series, because that's kind of been what the whole series has been about, and it's been something that, like I said, I've really been excited about doing. And so I think that will actually be part of that will get recorded, I believe, this coming weekend. Like I said, it will do that. I suppose I could have gone through the toll tag lane here. Hopefully I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. That's cool. That way I don't have to stop, and I don't have to reach over the keyboard and hit the enter button and all that kind of stuff. It's great to have toll tags. I tell you, a toll tag is probably one of the best investments I made when I was living in Dallas-Fort Worth. I don't have one here in Colorado because we do have a couple of toll roads, but I almost never need to drive on them. But when I lived in Dallas, we had the tollway that ran from North Dallas into downtown, and I drove that thing every single day. And what a time saver it was. It really was. I mean, I know that that some people may argue and say, well, you know, there are other avenues, there are other streets and everything that you could take to avoid the tollway, and that is true, and you could certainly do that in Dallas to avoid that. But it really did save. It probably saved me anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, almost each way. Maybe 30 minutes each way, probably about 30 minutes each way by taking the tollway, and it was $1 a trip for me. So it was $2 a day to jump on the tollway and go to my office, and then $1 to come home in the evenings. And I even used it in the evenings, and I think I've told you this story before. I would right before I moved to Denver, I was working the late shift in a call center, managing a call center, and I was covering for a female manager who was on maternity leave. And so I would go in and start my shift, start my my scheduled shift at about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I was essentially leaving at anywhere from 11 to maybe midnight at night. And I would even take the tollway at night because, you know, like I said, it was only $1. It was only $1 to do it. And I could be home much, much quicker, again, by sort of doing that. And the way I figure it is any time that you can save time from, you know, having been in a car, whether it's spending that extra time with your family or in my case, you know, I was young, much younger then, and so usually it just meant that I was able to get home and maybe do a little bit more work or just relax or whatever. I was working a lot of hours at that particular point in time, and it was just good to kind of, you know, be at home and not be stuck in the car. All right, so this video is coming up on about 31 minutes, but we are about 35 kilometers away from our destination. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep it and let it go long, and that way we will all arrive together and everything. Now, if let's see, starting on the 2nd of April, I began sort of advertising, if you will, for anyone who wanted to support the channel. I've often had over the last couple of years, I've had people ask me, you know, do I take PayPal donations? Do I do Patreon? Things like that. And I actually registered for a Patreon account probably about 18 months ago, and I just never enacted it. I never used it. And I've had people, like I said, over the last several months ask if I take PayPal and things like that. They want to tip me or whatever. So if you are interested in basically subscribing and or maybe pledging is the correct word that we're supposed to use with Patreon, there is a link, and there's certainly no obligation whatsoever for you to do this. I'm not going to twist your arm. I'm not going to be disappointed if you don't pledge or subscribe or whatever. And likewise, I will not be disappointed if you subscribe and a couple of months later you unsubscribe or you unpledge. That is not going to be any problem at all. So what am I going to use the money for? Well, I broke it all down, and if you follow the link to my Patreon page, you can read all about my plans for how I plan to use the money, not only from Patreon, but also how I will use the money that I'm still getting on occasion from Google, from the whole advertising and stuff like that. And it's basically going to be twofold. 10% of everything that I earn, I am going to put back into the channel, or maybe put it in my pocket temporarily in the event that I need to upgrade a video card, or if I want to buy a new game or something like that, that I would plan to put on the channel, put back into the Grizzly Bear Sims YouTube channel. Then 90% of everything that is earned through Patreon, through Google ads on YouTube, on the YouTube channel and everything, that monies will be invested in the form of giveaways and that sort of thing on the channel. So in other words, just growing the channel, giving something back to the community, giving away copies of, say, Farm Sim 19 once we get a little bit closer to that time frame, or DLCs, or whatever the case might be, or maybe just Steam gift cards, stuff like that. Steam is that's still probably my preferred way of rewarding folks doing giveaways, because it's so easy to do it that way. I don't have to worry about sending something in the mail and all of that. If you have a Steam account, and I think most people do, you can just basically know why. Oh, the port's over there. I guess we've got a little bit of a U-turn down here. Anyway, if that's what you want to do, if you would, and it can be any amount. I think the minimum is $1. If you want to pledge $1, that would make me happy. If you want to pledge nothing, I'm still happy. I'm still happy to have you a part of the channel, part of my friendship, all that kind of stuff. And maybe I'll consider doing some Patreon sort of only giveaways, stuff like that. I don't know. Just basically, since I took the hiatus off back in September and November of last year, I will admit that my Google ad revenue was fairly low for that period of time. And so I really haven't saved up enough money from the ads to do another giveaway. Plus, there really hasn't been anything of interest. So I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to pool that money together, and we'll use that to give away a couple of copies of Farm Sim 19. That might be kind of cool to do, and we're not that far away from the release. I mean, obviously we've got to get through summer and get into fall and everything, and I know that may seem far away, but it'll be here before we know it, and I'm certainly looking forward to it, and I know many of you are as well. So I think this is our drop point here, and so we need to figure out what we need to do with this trailer. So it's fuel, it's diesel fuel, isn't it? So let's take a look and see. I think we're going to take the let's play it safe again, since this video again is kind of run a little bit long. I think we're coming up on about 37 minutes here, so we're going to take the easier approach and just get her done and get you guys out of here, get me out of here. My voice is, I'm starting to lose my voice. I will straighten the trailer up just a little bit, try to do that. Get it in here straighter anyways. See, I can back if I'm not talking. If I'm keeping my mouth shut, I do okay. So let's straighten up with the world, and that's pretty good right there. All right, we'll set our parking brakes. We'll hit the letter T key, and let's hope for an excellent result. That'll make everybody happy. And there we go, folks. Taranto to Catania, if that's how you say it. We earned quite a bit of money there. Let's see, $23,286. Got the excellent score, which is always my goal. I think we got one speeding ticket, not too bad there, and we'll hit continue, and we can add one more to our eco driving there, and we'll apply that, and we're good to go. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for watching. I do appreciate you tuning into my YouTube channel and watching my videos each and every day, 5 days a week right now. So anyway, thank you all again for watching. Take good care of yourselves and also of each other, and I'll speak to you all very, very, very soon. Bye-bye for now.